This is the Rebel Author Podcast, where we talk about books, business, and occasionally bad words. Hello Rebels, and welcome to episode 257 of the Rebel Author Podcast. Today I'm talking to Estelle Van de Velde all about SEO and why it's important for authors. First, to a couple of comments, two on Vanessa Vale's episode. Tina Van Tyler, author, said, such a useful episode with so many actionable tips. I've long been confused by the idea of box sets, but Vanessa was very clear on the rationale. I'm off to join her Facebook group. And Holly put, I love this episode. So inspiring and so many actionable tips. Amazing. Well, I feel like I only just did a podcast. So it is Wednesday the 21st of August as I record this. And I think I did episodes maybe on Friday, or I can't actually remember. I know that I've done multiple to get back on track. So I'm feeling like I don't have a huge amount of news. What I have spent the last week doing, or not even week really, the last few days, is getting my head back on straight. So I have now plotted out the next kind of calendar year in terms of books, and I've set like a good, better, best. So my good goal, so this year I'll have written 3. So next year my good goal would be 4.5 books, the better goal would be 5, and the best goal would be 6. So I would like to do that, especially because obviously I've outsourced so much more, so I'm hoping that I'm going to have some more time for like input and things that are in the real world. And this weekend, so the other thing that I've been doing is finalising presentations, because I'm going to speak in Stockholm at Stockholm Writers Festival this weekend. Staying in a hotel at the Heathrow airport tomorrow, and then flying off first thing at the butt crack of dawn on Friday. And then I'm back again on Sunday, and then hopefully next week, by about middle of the week, I should be back to writing. Had some childcare issues, so I've not been able to crack on as quickly as I wanted to, but I'm very, very excited. And the other thing that I've kind of been doing, so this one is less not quite on paper or like a solid plan, but I think I spoke last time a little bit about the fact that I wanted to work on the business, and I had some things that I wanted to do. So one of them is that I have a reader magnet for my Girl Games series, but it is only digital, and I've always wanted to put it into paperback, and I've not been able to do that just because capacity and organisation, but because of the team that I'm working with now, I've been able to put the Girl Games paperback together, and I've just released that today, which is great. Very low level release because it is on my website only. I'm not putting it up anywhere else because it is my reader magnet, and the digital is still free on my mailing list, so it's only for people who are, I guess, completionists and want like the prequel in paper, which I was asked for multiple times over the years. So I was really pleased to be able to do that. And I'm not putting it anywhere else just because, I want it to be exclusive to my website. So that's now 2 things that I've got exclusive to my website, which I'm really excited about. And it definitely does draw people to my Shopify. And I feel like if you can do that, it's a really good way to build up trust with the readers, and also helping to train them to understand like where to go, because obviously readers, me included, have always kind of either shopped in Waterstones, a physical store, or on Amazon. So it's really good if we have these kind of lower priced items, of which both prequels actually, which are exclusive to my website, are lower priced. So one's $4.99, I think, physical, and the other one's $6.99 just because it's slightly longer. So yeah, like these things really, really help. So that's a good tip for you. Okay, the rebel of the week this week is Ida. Ida says, this happened a few years ago when I was 18. I posted a picture of myself in a short top and a pair of pajama pants, as one does, with my stomach visible. At the time, I was recovering from disordered eating, and showing my stomach without posing was a big step for me. Enter this Turkish guy who had been following me for a while, liking almost all of my pictures. He had the audacity to send me a DM saying, hey, hey, you should stop doing this. You want to look like you don't care about people's opinions, but you do. Some people don't care about your weight, but some people care about your health. It's just about your weight. Your psychology is also badly affected. Eat whatever you want. Eat whenever you want. Risking your health to show people that you don't care. You can be mad at me for saying this. You can even block me. I'm telling you to think differently, not to make you angry. But if you want to be angry, I don't care. Just take care of your health. Thinking wrong, you can block me, but if it's true, your thoughts and my English are equally bad. I was enraged, to say the least, and so I fired back with what I like to think was a spectacular clapback. What you are looking at is a healthy, happy woman. This body is recovering from an eating disorder, sickness and anxiety, an eating disorder that was powered by the beliefs you display right here. This is the conditioning of social media. It's the advertising all around us that says a healthy woman is flat and fatless. I'm here to tell you that's a lie. And the fact that you have the audacity to tell a grown woman how to live her life shows me that this is important work to do. To let you know that you have no right to tell me how to live my life. Recently, I went to the doctor to check up on my health. I'm as healthy as ever. It's a misbelief that having rolls, fat and skin is unhealthy. It's natural. This is a prime example of fat phobia, looking at the body and only by doing so concluding that it is unhealthy. He responded saying that he was sorry, that this was new information to him and that he was ashamed of himself when he read my message. Every person can make mistakes. I am also human. And then, I kid you not, oh my God, he sent me a certificate showing he had donated a freaking tree sapling in my name. He followed it up with, if I'm wrong and you are right, I'll be more careful. Did you forgive me because I'm still angry with myself? I want to relax about this. Though I've stopped using social media now, ironically, it was detrimental to my mental health. I'm proud that I defended myself. What started as a very disturbing comment has turned into a story that still makes me laugh today. I love that. And I love that you educated a person through your rebellion as well. Absolutely brilliant. If you would like to be a Rebel of the Week, please do send in your story. It can be any kind of rebellion, something big, something small, or something in between. You can email your Rebel story to Becca over on rebelauthorpodcast@gmail.com. Huge thank you to Holly Dunn, who upped their pledge, and an enormous thank you to all of my existing patrons. If you would like to support the show and get early access to all of the episodes, as well as bonus content, like tonight where we have our community live writing sessions, Q&A, get together called Poison and Prose, and our next masterclass, which is being taught at the beginning of September and is all about how to write those spicy scenes, both sweet and dirty. Then you can, from as little as $2 a month, by visiting patreon.com/Sasha Black. This week's episode is sponsored by Fictionary. Rather than me tell you all about why I love Fictionary, I'm going to let Amy tell you all about why she loves it. But for listeners who are interested in either Fictionary Storyteller, or Storyteller Premium and Certification, you can get a whopping 25% off by using the code REBEL25. Okay, over to Amy.
Hello, I'm Amy Sund, editor at Red Leaf Word Services. Now that your first draft is done, it's time to focus on the big picture elements of your story. Here's where Fictionary can help. Fictionary can track over 30 structural elements per scene. You heard that right. Per scene. It presents these elements in graphs, charts, and color-coded diagrams. It's a fantastic way to pick out weak spots or holes in your story's structure, especially for visual learners. Fictionary is one of the tools I most often suggest to my manuscript evaluation clients. I've used it in my own writing for refining scenes, smoothing out transitions, and seeing where I need to focus my attention. A 14-day free trial is available for new users, perfect for plugging in a short story to see what comes up. Founder Christina Stanley has built a thriving community around the software that is supportive, social, and educational. Come join us and see how Fictionary can help you craft a novel your readers will love.
Hello and welcome to the Rebel Author Podcast. Today I'm joined by Estelle Van de Velde. Estelle is a Belgian author. She has a master's in creative writing from Brunel University London and has self-published 2 non-fiction books. The Londoners, an expat's memoir and survival guide to the UK, and SEO for authors. She's also a mama writer. Her son was born in May 2022, and she takes care of him when she's not writing. Hello and welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me today.
You are most welcome. How is motherhood?
It's okay.
Yeah, tough, right? It's really hard. That's what people don't
Yeah,
tell you.
he just turned 2, and he's in his no phase.
Ah, okay. So my son didn't sleep through the night until he was 2. So
Oh,
around about where you are now, I was ready to have a nervous breakdown. I seem to remember.
well, my son, and I'm sorry for all the parents listening, but my son slept through the night since he's 4 months old.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Do you know what
we're
though?
quite lucky.
Yeah, you are. But I tell you, all kids do all of it in the end. They all get there in the end. So, okay. So, what I tend to do is ask everyone a little bit about their journey before we dive into the content. So, I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit more about you and how did you kind of get to where you are today? I mean, I know the baby bit, but maybe keep to the writing bit.
Sure. So I'm Estelle Van de Velde, and I have spent more than 10 years of my life working in digital marketing for companies like Trainline. If you are in the UK, you probably know about Trainline, and Qualifio. That one is a bit more not that obvious. My expertise lies in content marketing and search engine optimization, so SEO for short. And I'm also an indie author and have published 2 nonfiction books, which you already mentioned. One of them is empowering other author with SEO knowledge. And I've done many conferences about the topic. I did the Women in Publishing Summit and the Virtual Writing Conference, just to name a few. And I have to say, I was delighted when I received an email inviting me on your podcast, Sasha, because I'm a big fan of yours.
Oh, thank you for coming on. SEO isn't something that I know too much about. I mean, I know like basics, but I struggle with it. I think like a lot of authors, and I think it's especially important at the moment, like for um, even social media, which isn't something that we necessarily thought of previously. So maybe you could talk a little bit more about SEO, like what it is. Obviously, you sort of gave the acronym name, but like, what is it? Why do we need it? Why is it so important? Like, what? How do we really need to pay attention to it? Can we just ignore it? Like, give me the grounding in SEO.
Okay. So why it's crucial is a bit obvious, really. Nowadays, you're drowned in content, and especially with the rise of AI, you see content everywhere you look. Today's big battle is for someone's attention, and it's really hard to get. As an author, you get recommended to be on, every social media platform there is, to have a website, to start a newsletter, to get your hands in paid advertising, to make your own graphics, and so on and so forth, on top of writing your books. It's exhausting. So how can you do all this and keep your sanity, right? Many self-published authors likely work alone. It's then even more likely that they don't have the time to learn new marketing tactics. And there are too many things to do already, and we're creatives, not marketeers. SEO helps you with that. By using certain keywords in your written content, you can tell search engines that what you're about, and in return, they rank you accordingly in their results page. Better yet, it gets better, yeah. Amazon is also a search engine. So when learning SEO, you'll be able to optimize your author website, your social media presence, up to your Amazon book listing. I think that's a pretty big selling point. SEO is I would say it's like a game of dominoes. It takes a while to build, but once you do it, it increases your discoverability on search engines. It increases your traffic, so it means people are noticing you. It increases your brand visibility and awareness. You get known for certain things. And ultimately, your sales go up, all through the power of content marketing. It's really an amazing tactic to put in place as an indie author.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it certainly sounds like it. So, okay, so let's talk about the Amazon page then, because I think sales is probably the thing that most listeners are wanting to focus on. what kind of stuff do we stuff words, Sasha? What kind of words do we need to put into our Amazon sales page? Like what classes as SEO rich? What classes as good SEO versus could you maybe do an example of a fantasy romance book and what would classify as good SEO and what would classify as bad SEO?
For Amazon, right?
Yeah. I mean, whatever's an easiest example for you. Like, let's put it into practice because I still struggle. I hear what you're saying, in terms of this is what it can do, but what I still don't really know what it is. So, like, when I do social media captions or whatever, I'm just chucking words in, hoping that that's right, No, there's
No,
no
that's not how
strategy
it
behind
works.
it. What do you mean? That's not how it works. Okay, so tell me, like, let's talk it through an example of what would be good SEO.
For Amazon. Okay. So there are four things an author can influence for better search visibility on Amazon. You have the book metadata, so the title, the subtitle, and the description. And you also have the 7 allocated slots for keywords that they encourage you to fill, so Amazon is able to rank your book even better in their search results. So if you're a romance writer, what you would like to rank for is usually keywords like romance novels or romance fantasy novels, or maybe your tropes. Your tropes are good keywords to put in because usually when people will look at books on whether it's Google or Amazon, they will know what they want to read, right? So if they're after a fantasy novel with romance in it, they won't type something like
A book title, a random book title.
they won't type a random book title. They want to discover books, right? So they will likely type a trope or a genre. That's the type of thing that they will search for. And
So
if they already know you, they
yeah.
will likely put either your pen name or your full name or the title of your books.
So the
That type of
words that
stuff.
we need to put in our metadata are literally phrases that people would type in and search for.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So how do we work out what that would be?
That's the $1 million question, right?
100%.
That's a very vast question to answer, actually, because you then have to look for keywords. You have to do the keyword research. You have to think about the intent of the user. You have to think about the content that you're gonna put on your website or on social media. So it's really an overall thing,
Okay.
I would
So,
say.
when you talk about the intent behind a user's search, what do you mean? What are the different types of intent and how can they help us create targeted content?
I would say when talking about search engine optimization, you might think you just have to play the search engine or the algorithm game, right? But you are not writing for search engines or algorithms. You are writing for people, real people like you and me. You've got to understand that search engines and algorithms don't buy books. People do. And they have an intent behind each one of their searches. They're not randomly typing words in a search bar. They know what they want. And there are actually 3 main types of intent. There's navigational, transactional, and informational. Navigational means that the reader already knows about you and is looking to get more information about you and the type of books that you write. And as I mentioned, typically the keyword they'll be using in the search box are your full name, pen name, or even the titles of one of your books. The readers is looking to reach your website, so it's likely there's only one destination, your author website. That's one of the many reasons why you probably should get a website if you don't have one yet. transactional is when a reader is looking for interaction. They want to buy something, whether they're specifically looking for a book title or just browsing to see what comes out. They will ultimately land on a product page, and the product being, hopefully, your book. As for informational, this is probably the intent you will need to work on the most because it has the best potential for discovery. This intent means the reader is looking for something, but doesn't exactly know where they're going to get that information from. That's when it's important to rank on the first page of the search results. Usually you'll have blog posts ranking on that page or social media posts if you are on one of those platforms as well. Just one thing though, ranking for informational keywords won't bring you a ton of sales, but you might capture a potential reader through maybe a newsletter. So something I always recommend is to set up an email list to convert that person into a potential reader.
So why do informational ones not necessarily convert?
Because informational keywords are like you are answering people's questions. So usually what you will use as of words like is the who, how, what, where, and why as part of your keyword. It's up to you to answer the question as best as you can, and if you do it better than anyone, you could get ranked, in the search box directly in the search results, because Google often displays answers in a box at the top of the page. If you can grab a reader's attention, it's a great opportunity to build trust. But it's more like to answer people's questions rather than to give them something to, a product that you want to push.
Okay, cool.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So what are some common misconceptions about SEO that you think indie authors in particular should be aware of?
I do think authors have a general misconception about marketing. I may be wrong, but that's my friends always, ask me very random stuff. So except if they've been working in the marketing industry themselves, authors can get discouraged pretty easily if they're trying something and that something doesn't show instant results. I know some authors who would post pretty pictures on social media and check every minute for likes and comments. But that's not how marketing and more specifically SEO works. It takes time for SEO to pick up and give you the results that you want in terms of traffic. Another misconception is to think that because you've optimized your content for search engines, your sales will go crazy and you'll become a best-selling author. Unfortunately, SEO isn't magic. I will be blunt. It's better for you to hone your craft than to know how to optimize a website for search engines. It doesn't matter that you drive tons of traffic on your website or Amazon page if your book isn't good enough. And believe me, people will know very quickly if it's worth their time, starting with your book cover.
Okay. So we've talked a little bit about content, and we've talked about like informational content, and we've talked about like social media, but what exactly should we be putting out? What should we put on our websites that would help with SEO versus what would we put on social media? And how does this fit into a kind of overall strategy for SEO?
Well, there is some obvious content to have on your author website, right? The purpose of that content is to be well positioned on search engine for navigational and transactional keywords. So your name, your book titles. If you optimize your website well, I would say people will land on your homepage or your about page. So if you thought that nobody would read your about page and therefore skip having an about page altogether, I ask you to think again. It tells your story, who you are as an author, what drives you to write what you write. Have you got any degree or training in writing or anything in relation to your book? That type of stuff. On the other hand, a homepage is a no-brainer to have. It's like your author website's main display. It should tell readers who you are, what books you're writing, and what other products or services you offer in just one glance. You don't need to write an essay on your homepage. Just a few paragraphs are enough. If the readers want to read more, they'll have to move on to another page. You will also want to have a specific page on your website for each of your book with a link to where readers can buy it. So on the page, you'll have the cover and book description, maybe 2 or 3 reviews, and a CTA, so call to action, inviting readers to purchase your book. And as for the content you create for social media, it's a different world altogether. Think of your author website as a home and your social media as transport, right? The purpose of social media is to raise awareness to you as a brand so that potential readers are compelled to click your links and ultimately buy from you. There's no limit to what you can post on your platforms, really. What I always say is that the reader wants to enter your world, so give them a door.
Yeah, they do want to enter your world, and it's difficult really to know what the right type of content is to put out, because you don't kind of want to overwhelm readers with details and, world building facts if they're not already hooked, but also you want to use some of those world building facts or character nuggets or whatever to attract them. So it's kind of hard to find that like right balance, I think. What about like AI? How do you feel about AI and the fact that, it's even easier than ever to create content now? Is having a blog important for authors? I remember that's where I got started, like back in 2012 or something, but that's like 12 years ago and tech changes a lot. And if not a blog, then what kind of social media presence is important? And then if you do think a blog is important, like how do we determine what to put on there? I suppose maybe it's different for fiction and nonfiction. So maybe let's address this for fiction authors first, and then let's come back to it and talk about it from nonfiction author point of view.
That's a lot of questions.
I know, I'm sorry. Okay, first of all, let's start with AI. Let's talk about AI first. Tell me about your position on AI and content.
Okay, so AI is really it's a really tough topic at the moment. You are either against it or you're for it. For me particularly, I'm kind of against it, but that's because I built my whole career out of content creation and copywriting. So when I hear companies saying, hey, we don't need you anymore because we got ChatGPT and it's going to write things for us, I cringe like a lot. But that doesn't mean that AI isn't good. Wait a minute. Oh, safe. That was the word I was looking for. Anyway, they can save us a lot of time by typing something. For example, if I don't know a particular topic, I just ask ChatGPT, hey, do you know something about, I don't know, economics? And it will write a text about economics. But the thing is that what people don't really understand is that AI is not just artificial intelligence. It's a language learning model tool. So it learns things from stuff on the internet. And I think that's just, plagiarism in some ways and copyright infringement. And when using AI, you should always take what it says with a grain of salt, because sometimes it can be wrong, and sometimes it can just be fully plagiarized. How do you say that?
It can plagiarize. So rather than kind of how you feel about it, what I guess what I mean is, how do you feel it's going to impact authors' ability to create good content? Like in AI, in terms of the huge amount of content that's coming, what do we need to do as authors in terms of our SEO to kind of beat the game? Like, if AI is here, what do we do with our SEO to still win and still get visibility? So, like, are there certain social media platforms that are better than others for us? Like, are blogs still going to work? Is that work? Do we go back to a blog? Do we, what? Yeah, I guess I'm talking about the impact of AI. What does that change? How does that change our strategy?
I think it shouldn't change your strategy a lot, because Google has already stated that it would be against AI generated content, and it's working on improving the algorithm to pick up the content that has been generated by AI and try to remove that from the search results. Obviously, it doesn't really work at the moment, but it's in progress. So as an author, you shouldn't really change your SEO strategy that much.
Okay, so let's talk about blogs then. Do you still think a blog is important? And if so, what type of authors is it important to, and what types of content should they be putting out?
I actually remember a conversation I had with my good friend, author SD Houston. She's the founder of the AuthorTube Writing Conference, if you know that. And she's a talented fantasy romance writer. She would say to me, more often than not, authors are creating content for all the other authors on their social media platforms or on their blog. And it's indeed the mistake most authors make when they are thinking about the content they should create, myself included. As a nonfiction author who is writing books to help the author community, it makes sense to me to create content about book marketing and self-publishing and have a blog about that. But if you're also creating the same type of content as a romance or fantasy or thriller author, I do believe that you are wasting your time and energy doing something that will lead you to little to no sales. What should you write about if you want to attract new readers? I would talk about books within your genre. Are there any books you could recommend? Review them. Or you could make a list of your top 10 books in one specific genre. You could include your own book in the mix. The theme here is to bring on readers who are interested in what you write in your stories. And for that, you can have a blog, yes. I'm not saying you shouldn't talk about anything else in your author life. Readers who become fan of yours will always like to know what you're up to. So not everything has to be optimized for search engine. You can still be you. And I do believe that when creating an author website, you are not only trying to sell your books, but you're also creating a brand. And that brand is you. So keep talking about what makes your heart beat. It will bring readers closer to you.
Okay. Is there anything else that non-fiction authors should write about? Because obviously we can talk about the important things, but I suppose as non-fiction authors, we're doing more than telling a story, aren't we? Where, I suppose, do we answer questions? Like, how much of our content from the book should we share? Like, is that SEO? Would that help our SEO if we're doing stuff like that?
Yeah. For example, if I'm taking myself as an example, I should definitely blog about SEO if I want authors to find my book about SEO for authors, right? So I would write things like, I don't know, why is SEO important? What's a ranking factor in SEO? How do you look for keywords? How are you optimizing your metadata? There are many, many type of questions you can answer that will be picked up by Google and ranked in the search results. So when you write a nonfiction book, you definitely have content that you could, repurpose and put on your website as as blog posts to be able to rank on search engines. But obviously, I wouldn't tell you to just copy paste your book because otherwise, what's why then buy your book if you put that for free out there? So yeah, really, when you take a piece of your book, you should definitely rewrite it and repurpose it for blog content. Well, as blog content.
Okay, let's move to social media.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we know we need to put content out, we need to be consistent, but most of the time that's either a picture, a graphic, or a reel. Obviously, there are also captions that we need to add to our posts, and I'm guessing that is the place that we should be SEO friendly. So, what kind of phrases, what kind of words, should we be using in order to make our SEO, our captions on social media SEO friendly?
Well, the first thing to optimize is your bio. So for Instagram or TikTok, for example, or your channel description if you're on YouTube. Using keywords like self-published author or the genre you write in is probably the best way to do it. As for captions, I would say to keep using the keywords you want to rank for is a good idea. Hashtags are also a way to get noticed. So I would add as many hashtags as it's recommended to use on the specific platform you're on. And I've seen some author use their tropes in their captions as well. And that can be part of SEO as well. So if you can use your tropes, do that. It's really good for SEO. But it's still good to know that having your social media captions optimized doesn't influence your Google ranking, in the sense that Google won't look at social signals like engagement, followers, or shares to rank your website. However, it can benefit your website indirectly. For example, having a link from those platforms to your website can help your rankings when the content performs well on social media. That's called a backlink. Your social presence increases your brand visibility, and readers are more likely to click on your website afterwards. There isn't a magic formula for viral posts, though, I'm afraid. So there we are.
What a shame. I
Yeah.
think that's the thing we're all desperate for, right? Do you think there's any difference at all? This is probably quite a yes or no question, but do you think there's any difference between like long form captions or just like short captions? Like, is there more power in a longer caption, or do we mix it up? Or I don't know, is there a right or wrong answer?
In terms of social media, no, there's not. There isn't any right or wrong answer. From a content marketing perspective, it's more likely to have a viral post if that post is a bit longer than just one sentence. But other than that, you can keep it short with like a few sentences, or very, very long if you feel like you're Shakespeare.
Okay, so let's talk about keywords. Can you give a rundown of what good keywords are versus what maybe bad keywords are,
Oh,
and
God.
and how we should be using them? Like, I know, no, I think I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to let you talk first, and then I might have a follow-up question.
Okay. Sure. Imagine you're going on Google and type something in the search box. Let's say you are looking for information on dogs. What would you type? Something like Siberian Husky puppies, or how do I take care of a Shiba Inu? A keyword is not necessarily one word you type into the search box. It can be a group of words simply because you have an intention behind your search, right? You're not only looking for random information about dogs, you are looking for specifics. That's why it's more likely that you will type a group of words or a question into that search box. A keyword is how you try to find something on the internet. And choosing a main keyword when creating a piece of content is going to be key to your SEO strategy. And SEO is like, following a recipe. There are things that are out of your control, like your website's loading speed, which is, it depends on your content management system, CMS for short, whether it's WordPress, Wix, Squarespace, or, anything else. The more plugins you've got on those platforms, the more your website is going to get slower. But there are things that are within your control, and that's content. Images can have alternative text, helping them rank in Google Image, for example. It's also good for accessibility, which allows people with disabilities to know what those images represent. You can use your keywords pretty much everywhere within your written text, from the titles to the text itself. I do recommend using your main keywords more or less 4 times within the body of the text, 1 time in your main title, and maybe once or twice in subheading. And maybe once or twice in subheadings. And make sure your text is readable. Think of your font size and of breaking your text into paragraphs. Nobody wants to read a huge block of text. Make also sure that your text is scannable. Use bullet points, title structure, and bold text to drive the reader's eyes. There is more to this recipe, but those recommendations can already do a lot for your SEO.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, like, are Amazon keywords different from like SEO keywords at all?
Yes.
Okay, can you go into a little bit of detail about like how they differ and maybe like how we can choose the right ones for each type?
Sure. Funny thing is that every time I give a talk about SEO to an audience of authors, they're always surprised when I tell them that, yes, Amazon Ads keywords are different from Amazon SEO keywords. And in reality, the reason is quite simple. Amazon is more strict when it comes to SEO keywords. They have a set of rules that doesn't apply when creating an ad campaign. Things like free, new, on sale, or best novel ever won't be accepted as SEO keywords. That's kind of obvious. Amazon is quite protective of their Kindle license, so they won't accept keywords using Amazon programs like, Kindle Unlimited or KDP Select. They're also very protective of other authors, so don't use another author's name as a keyword in your 7 allocated slots. You can use all of that in your ads campaign if you feel like it, because it helps with, ranking and showing up within results with that other author's name. But don't do that for SEO keywords. Another thing I'd like to mention is to, avoid using quotation marks in any type of search engine. When using quotation marks, you tell them you want an exact match to what you typed inside them. For example, if you type best-selling fantasy author of all time inside quotation marks, search engines will try their best to find the exact same phrase you just used. And if they can't find any result that fits your search, they'll simply tell you no result was found. It's the same with Amazon. If you use quotation marks within your 7 slots, you're giving up on that slot because it's unlikely readers will search for that exact keyword. And by removing the quotation marks, readers can search for any of those words and find your book. As for how you can look for keywords, well, it's pretty much the same process as, you do for website SEO, except you won't be using the same set of tools. If you've got a little bit of money to spare, I recommend using Publisher Rocket.
I love Publisher Rocket.
Yeah. Not only can it help with keyword research, but it also helps you figure out which categories to add your book in. I find that quite useful. And if you don't have any budget for tools, you can install the AMZ Suggestion Expander plugin. That's a very long name. On your web browser to expand on any keyword ID you may have, and keep a little spreadsheet open on the side to note anything that catches your eye. With the plugin, you can also get the search volume, but you will then need to pay for their pro version. Once you have a set of keywords you'd like to check out, it's time to have a look at the competition, meaning you'll have to press enter for each keyword you'd potentially want to rank for. I recommend you have a look at the book titles because usually authors are using keywords in there, especially nonfiction authors.
You say that there's quite a lot of like fantasy and romance authors that I'm seeing are starting to like I do it as well. So I put like fantasy romance in the subtitle and then I put it on the cover so that I'm allowed to use it like in the metadata. I'm definitely seeing people start to do that.
Yes, they do that. I saw a few romance authors do that as well. So you check their book titles, you check their rankings in their results page, the number of reviews, and the star rating. Because when choosing the keywords, you will want to find the right balance between the numbers of results there are on the search page, but also how well those books might be faring.
Okay, how can authors optimize their Amazon book listing for better search visibility? Obviously, we've talked about keywords and choosing the right categories. Is there anything else that we can do, or is that kind of the main stuff? And like, what about books that have already been published? Are we able to like improve things, or once we've published it, is that it?
That's a very good question. So I already mentioned that, but there are 4 things an author can influence for better search visibility on Amazon. So title, subtitle, description, that's the book metadata, and the 7 allocated slots for keywords. So when you are updating a book or about to release a book, Amazon is encouraging you to fill in those slots to be able to rank your book even better in their search results. You can always go back to the books you've already published to improve the book description or the 7 slots. The only difference is that I don't think you're allowed to change your book title and subtitle after it's released. I only recommend that you let enough time pass before making any changes to the keywords you've entered, like, a month or so, or like a month or more, if you want to be able to notice any difference in your sales. And you can repeat the process as many times as you want until you find out which keywords to use in your 7 slots or in your book description, if that's relevant enough.
Okay, amazing. How do we know if we've done well? How do we know if the tweaks and changes that we've put in the system are actually working? Like, is there a specific thing we should check? Is there a metric we should measure? Yeah, like how do we know what to look at to see if we're being effective or if we've made it worse?
Well, for search engines and Google in particular, I would say Google Search Console is your friend. It's a free tool given to website owners by Google to help with tracking impressions and clicks on their search engine. As Google is today's most used search engine in the world, I think it gives you a pretty good picture on how your website is performing. You just need to connect your website to their platforms and ta-da! It starts collecting data on your organic traffic, so your SEO traffic. As for the metrics you should be tracking, I would say impressions and clicks are important because then you can check if your efforts are working. If your website traffic goes up, that's always a good thing. Another metric is your keyword rankings to keep an eye on which keywords are in a better position on search engines, or if you need to do anything in case of a drop in rankings, like, refreshing the metadata or adding some more content on the page. So keep an eye on this data, but don't get sick over it. SEO takes time. Don't give up on your efforts if you don't see a spike in impressions right away. You might want to check it every 2 weeks or so, not more.
Okay, great. I'm every 2 weeks. That's not so hot for people who are super impatient.
No.
Okay, last question then. Are there any tools or resources you recommend for authors who want to improve their SEO skills and stay up to date with best practice?
Sure. So to improve your SEO skills, I'm afraid I won't be original. You've got to try and try and try again. Because when improving your website for search engines, you won't get overnight results. You can wait 3 or 4 months before seeing any results. So I would encourage you to not touch your content and wait and see if what you did had any repercussions on your performance. This way you can learn what works and doesn't work for you. As for tools, I usually recommend working with SEMrush. That's SEMrush.com. It's a tool that helps a lot with keyword research, reporting, and more for search engines like Google. There's a free and a paid version. I think if you are a self-published author working alone, the free version is enough. There's Google Search Console, which I already mentioned. And for resources, I keep up with searchenginejournal.com to stay up to date with the industry. And for everything Amazon, I love what Dave Chesson does with Publisher Rocket. And I think his blog is very well documented.
Yeah, I'm on his mailing list. I love Publisher Rocket. I tend to use it mostly when I like start a new series, like, and I'm looking for either comp titles or keywords and stuff. But I probably should use it more, even like checking for updates and stuff. I don't think I do that necessarily enough. That's a really good tip. And of course, you have a book as well. So would you like to tell everyone about that book and where they can find it?
Sure. So all my books are available on Amazon, but I think your listeners will be more interested in knowing that I wrote a book on the topic we just discussed. It's called SEO for Authors, How to Leverage Search Engine Optimization for Your Author Business, in which I dive in even deeper into the SEO strategy for authors.
Amazing. Well, this is the Rebel Author Podcast. So tell everyone about a time you unleashed your inner rebel.
I actually had to dig very, very deep to find my inner rebel. So it's not really a story of unleashing my inner rebel, but more like a revenge in life, or kind of. So you have to know that I'm Belgian, from the French-speaking part of Belgium. And when I was a teenager, I took English as a second language. And one of my teachers completely set me off English. They told my parents not so nice words about me and my abilities in learning a second language. And I was, 13 at best? Who says that to a 13-year-old? Anyway, I have rejected English for as long as I could. I have avoided it until I met my now husband, who asked me to follow him in the UK because he had a job opportunity. So I had the right incentive to finally learn the language because I didn't know anything about English when I moved in the UK, and I had to take a lot of courses. But, it was worth it. I am now bilingual. I probably speak better English than my infamous teacher. I have a YouTube channel in English, and I write mainly in English as well. And I think that's a pretty good way to prove that teacher wrong.
I think that's an amazing way to prove that teacher wrong. And the fact that you're writing books in another language just blows my mind. Like, that takes this serious level of skill. So I think you should be super proud, as well as embracing your inner rebel.
Oh, thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your time today. Is there anywhere else you'd like to point people to listeners?
Yes. You can find me on YouTube by just typing my full name, so Estelle Van de Velde, and on my website, that's vdvestelle.com. As I mentioned, all my books are available on Amazon. And thank you so much for having me on your podcast, Sasha. I'm a big fan of yours, and I never miss any of your episodes. It was an honor being here with you today.
Oh, thank you for joining me. And of course, a giant thank you to all of the show's listeners and all of the show's patrons. If you would like to get early access to all of the episodes, you can do so by visiting patreon.com/Sasha Black. I'm Sasha Black. You were listening to Estelle Van de Velde, and this was the Rebel Author Podcast. Next week, join me and Danielle Krause as we discuss how to write horror and create really unique voices in your work. Don't forget to tune in and subscribe on your podcatcher. And when you have a moment, please leave a review.